You think you're practicing semen retention to become stronger, to be more focused, to rise above lust. But what you don't realize at first is that this practice is not just about power. It's about exposure. It's about being forced to stand naked before your own shadow, the one you've ignored for years. When you stop running from instant pleasure, the first thing that hits you isn't peace. It's chaos. The mind becomes louder. The thoughts become darker. All the emotions you've been suppressing through lust, through scrolling, through distractions start surfacing. This is not a side effect. This is the initiation. If you're serious about mastering this path, make sure you join the Telegram channel. The link is in the description. There, we go even deeper into the mindset, the inner war, and the transformation few people are willing to face. Now back to what truly happens inside you. When you retain, you remove your escape route. Every man has his escape. Some use alcohol. Some use video games. Some use endless dating. But most use release, because that's the easiest way to temporarily silence the voice inside that says, "You're not enough." That voice doesn't disappear when you stop releasing. It grows louder. It demands your attention. It tells you to finally deal with what you've been avoiding. That's why semen retention is not a spiritual trick. It's psychological warfare. You start facing the guilt you buried years ago. You face your insecurities about not being masculine enough. You face your anger at yourself for wasting time. It's like you've been living in a house with a locked basement. Retention is you turning on the light and realizing there are things in that basement that have been living rent-free in your mind for years. When you stop releasing, your brain begins to detox from dopamine, the same dopamine that used to distract you from fear. Fear of failure. Fear of loneliness. Fear of being ordinary. These fears were never gone. You've just never had the clarity to see them. But now, the clarity cuts through your illusions like a blade. And that can be terrifying. This is where most men quit. They say, "It's too hard." They call it flatline. But it's not a flatline. It's withdrawal from your own illusion. It's your system rebooting. The storm before the calm. Here's the truth. Semen retention doesn't make you fearless. It makes you conscious of fear. That's the difference between blind courage and enlightened strength. Blind courage ignores the problem. Enlightened strength looks it in the eye and walks forward anyway. When your energy builds up, it brings awareness to parts of your life that no longer align with who you want to be. That's why your tolerance for meaningless conversations drops. That's why you start feeling disconnected from shallow people. That's why your old habits begin to disgust you. You're not becoming arrogant. You're evolving. You see, most men are not scared of failure. They're scared of transformation, because transformation requires death. The death of who you used to be. The death of comfort. The death of your old identity. Retention forces this death. It strips away false confidence and reveals how fragile your inner foundation actually was. But only then can you rebuild something real. And then comes loneliness, a deep, silent kind of loneliness. Not because you're unloved, but because you're in between worlds. You've left behind your old self, but your new self hasn't fully formed yet. This is the void stage, and the void is not your enemy. It's the womb of power. Every great man went through it. The monk in solitude. The warrior before battle. The artist before his master. The void is where you stop running and learn to sit with yourself. In that silence, your fears whisper. They tell you stories. They remind you of every failure, every humiliation. But if you stay long enough, you'll notice something strange. Those fears begin to lose their shape. They become smaller. You start to realize that fear was never meant to stop you. It was meant to refine you. Retention teaches you to alchemize fear into awareness. When you get an urge, it's not just sexual. It's a wave of life force trying to express itself. If you panic and suppress it, it turns into anxiety. But if you breathe into it, if you stay present, it transforms. It becomes creativity. It becomes focus. It becomes clarity. This is what ancient mystics meant when they said energy transforms when observed without reaction. One of the most profound shifts retention brings is how it exposes your emotional immaturity. Many men chase women not for love, but for validation. They want to be seen as powerful because they don't feel powerful within. When you retain, that false confidence collapses. You're forced to develop inner worth without external approval. That's emotional alchemy. You start realizing how much of your life was driven by avoidance. Avoiding silence, avoiding boredom, avoiding truth. Retention cuts through the fog. It makes silence feel alive. It makes stillness magnetic. You begin to see that peace isn't the absence of noise. It's mastery over your reaction to noise. Then something interesting happens. As fear dissolves, a different kind of energy arises. Not the loud, aggressive power of the ego, but a grounded, calm authority. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to chase. People start feeling your energy before you speak. You become centered, anchored, unshakable. But this doesn't come from not releasing. It comes from transmuting what you once released. Every urge becomes a mirror. Every temptation becomes a teacher. Each time you overcome it consciously, you reclaim a piece of your fragmented self. That's why old spiritual traditions called this self-integration. And let's be honest, this journey can feel brutal. You'll have nights where you question yourself. You'll have moments of emotional volatility. Your dreams might get darker. This isn't regression, it's purification. When you retain, your subconscious begins to clean itself. All the repressed emotions you never processed begin to surface. Don't fight them. Feel them. Let them burn away what no longer serves you. You'll notice something else too. You become hyper-aware of the world's chaos. Media, music, advertisements. They all start to feel louder, more manipulative. Because now your perception is no longer fogged by lust. You begin to see how society thrives on keeping men distracted and weak. Retention breaks that spell. It rewires your focus away from external pleasure toward internal purpose. That's the real fear you confront. The fear of power, not power over others, but power over yourself. The responsibility that comes with it. Because when you realize you are capable of self-mastery, you can no longer blame the world. You become accountable for your potential. That's heavy, but it's liberating. Over time, fear transforms into respect. Respect for your mind. Respect for your energy. Respect for time. You begin to move slower, but with intent. You speak less, but with more impact. You stop chasing validation because your presence itself becomes validation. Every man who stays consistent with retention reaches a point where his biggest fear isn't failure anymore. It's returning to a life of unconsciousness. Once you taste awareness, you can't unsee it. Once you feel real control, you can't go back to the cage. Here's something few talk about. Retention doesn't just sharpen your masculine energy. It also awakens your inner feminine, the intuitive, nurturing, reflective side. And that's crucial, because without balance, masculine energy becomes aggression. Retention creates harmony. It teaches you to act with clarity and feel with depth. Eventually, you stop fighting fear altogether. You start walking with it. You begin to see fear not as an obstacle, but a guide that points you toward what you need to face next. Every fear you confront through retention becomes a doorway to greater self-understanding. That's the paradox. Retention feels like restriction at first, but it's actually freedom. Freedom from being a slave to impulses. Freedom from external validation. Freedom from the noise of desire. When you conquer lust, you don't lose pleasure. You discover a deeper form of pleasure. Peace. And peace doesn't come easily. It comes when you've stared your darkness in the eye and realized it was never your enemy. It was your teacher. So remember this. The man who practices retention isn't avoiding life. He's facing it. He's confronting what most people spend their entire lives escaping. He's learning to channel fear into wisdom and pain into purpose. If this message resonated with you, join the Telegram channel through the link in the description. That's where we share deeper insights, unfiltered discussions, and techniques that go beyond what YouTube allows. And if you found value in this video, consider contributing using the thanks button. Every contribution, no matter how small, helps keep this movement growing and the message spreading. Stay strong. Stay aware. Keep walking through the fire. Because the man who dares to confront his deepest fears becomes unbreakable.